But the whole point is, once you know what the game is and how the scoreboard is tracked and how people think, suddenly now you can adjust yourself. You can adjust, like, if you don't listen to your spouse at all, you just learned, plan, I'm going to listen to my spouse. I'm going to do it. I'm going to see what the response is. And if it's not good, I'm going to check it. I'm going to adjust it. I'm going to change. Right? And every step of the way you can do that. When you make a plan for your finances, you act on that plan. 30 days later, you go over that budget, you check that plan, and you make a change if it needs to be adjusted. And you can do that in all areas of life. You just got to give it some thought time and figure out the scoreboard. Make sure you're tracking the right things. And that's where, if you have the blessing, some of the great life leaders that are going out and mentoring people, they can guide you through this process. Because if you can find somebody who's already succeeded in those areas, that stuff's like gold. Like, how long do you have to go through a process and beat your head against the wall before someone comes in and teaches you the shortcut? And you don't have to do that. It's kind of like, if you're watching a guy trying to get out of the back of the room and he just keeps running to the wall, I would hope one of you would walk over and pull him over to the door. Right? It's like, quit beating your head against the wall and plan, do, check, adjust, and do that. So why don't more people do it? Why doesn't it happen? Why do so many people avoid that check step and then continue to repeat the same pain? Albert Einstein says the definition of insanity is to repeat the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Yet in so many areas of my life, my finances were bad. We'll take care of that next year. Man, our marriage isn't going the way I want it to. Yeah, we'll get it fixed. It'll get better. And we just expect it to get better. We don't put together a specific plan. And a big reason is, when I was this way, I used to joke around and say, I used to watch Al Bundy and Married with Children. That was my information to be a good husband. If you've ever seen that, not a good input, right? I lacked information in my life to then check. I didn't even know what I was checking. Like, if you don't have valuable information, if you grew up with, I said this earlier when I gave a parenting talk, if you grew up with a bad dad, how do you know what a good one does? If you grew up with, like I did, with divorced parents on both sides, how do you know to make one work? If everybody around you is broke and having a tough time financially, how do you know what good is? Right? In all those categories, you have to first gather proper information that now you have a reference to go back to, and that's what life offers. That's what we're trying to do, is bring this information to people and say, look, there's better ways, there's better ideas to live the life you always wanted. All you're lacking is the right information to get you where you want to go, and then going through this process and having the courage. So let's talk through why people won't, or I guess what people do to delude themselves, to kind of get away from it, to relieve the pressure on themselves. Because at any point in time, when you're trying to get debt-free, there's going to be a point in time when there's some pressure on you, probably because you have to give up some things to get your debt under control. Like when I was trying to get totally financially independent, I had to give up a lot of stuff I was frivolously spending money on short-term so I'd have extra money long-term. I love Claude Hamilton, one of the Life founders. He says either play now and pay later, or pay now and play later. Right? And what he's saying is, if you do the hard things now, life's going to get easier. Do the easy things now, life's going to get harder. And how many people see that? It's like the power of compounding, right? You finance a couple cars, you mortgage a house, you get some credit card debts, and suddenly you have all these bills on top of you, and boy, you got a lot of cool stuff, but because you weren't paying attention, it's going to plague you now for years. They said power of compounding goes both ways, good and bad. And most people are going to wake up tomorrow morning in more debt than when they went to sleep, because it's working against them, because they got themselves down this path. So finding that piece out and saying, okay, here's my finances, let's be honest with it, let's address it, let's check it, and let's adjust it. Let's fix this problem. And so what do people do? They do a couple things. When the pressure starts to build, the number one thing people will do, or one of the top three, I don't know if they're in any order here, but one of the things they do is they play the blame game. They'll blame somebody else for their lack of results. They'll blame somebody else that I'm not where I want to be because my wife has 300 pairs of shoes. Not mine, honey, but just in case she's watching. Right? Or it's not my fault that this happened, or you passed the buck. You want to blame somebody else. You want to shift it and make it somebody else's responsibility. And what that does is, in the moment, it takes the pressure off you. But here's a powerful statement. If you don't take personal responsibility for what's happening in your life, you lose all power to change what's happening in your life.